I mean, I don't know about you if you've ever experienced something like that.
Nude on a bed, both of you, and he's like on top of you, and you can still say no. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Truth and Tonic, and I am Dr. Tracy. I'm here with my friend Amanda, and today we're gonna have a very descriptive conversation about sex and communication. So, as always, we will make it make sense. Hey, Amanda.
Hey, Tracy.
What you doing?
Well, we're going to talk about some sex.
I know.
Yeah, it's going to be
How was
fun.
your day today?
It's been a day.
Any
but
sex?
here we are. No, not today. With myself, sure.
Well, that's important.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get into that later for sure.
Okay, guys, we're going to be talking about sex and communication because as women, we often silence our voices, we're not heard, and we don't get what we want. And it's important that we always get what we need, which in essence equates to getting what we want. As my husband tells me all the time, you get exactly what you want all the time. He hates my voice for him, by the way.
They all sound the same. So
Pretty accurate,
yeah,
right?
it's very accurate. Sorry, Stephen.
So, Amanda, if I asked you what you think the breakdown is when it comes to women communicating with their spouses, their boyfriends, about what they truly need sexually, what do you think it is?
I think a lot of times women just tend to, as maybe it's by nature, we will put our partner's needs, feelings, etc., before our own at all times.
Yes.
I think that's actually, you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And with that, you will forego your own well-being, basically.
And needs.
Yep. Needs, mental, all of it. That's what I think number one is. And not to mention, it's awkward to have a conversation with anybody, any relationship, but specifically with a sexual partner. If you're not getting what you need from them, it is so incredibly awkward to have that conversation. It's awkward as fuck. Let's just put it out there. So,
is it awkward when you put on a TLC song and no, Salt and Pepper song in the background and it's like, let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
Yeah, we're singing now.
Would it make that a little better?
Personally, for me, the humor, get rid of that awkwardness, if that makes it work. But yeah, I mean, just if stuff goes too long, I mean, it builds up resentment and a lot of other issues if you don't just pull the Band-Aid off and figure out a way to have a conversation about it.
Very true. And leading into this, you guys, I got to tell you what happened to me today. 7:00, I'm working out with my trainer. I'm on this machine that I hate more than anything. One of his clients comes up and he's like talking and I hear a little, guy on guy whispering. And the trainer's like, hey man, how's everything with your girl? Blah, blah, blah. And he says, I mean, it's not going well. And I'm sitting here all ears like,
how could you not?
Why isn't it going well? So he says, I mean, she wants all the things all the time. Sometimes I'm a man and I just need it when I need it. And she wants all the things. So me being completely inappropriate, I'm like, she needs all the things all the time. And he goes, what?
As you should.
I'm like, what are you thinking? I said, how old is she? He goes, 30s. I said, well, she's not 21. She doesn't wake up and think, oh my God, I'm going to have sex today. She wants some roses. She wants some romance.
Do you know how old this guy was?
The guy's 27.
Interesting.
The guy's 27 and he goes, no, I really do all the things. I buy the flowers. I cook dinner. I do this. I do that. And I'm like, wow, I'm impressed. I said, you really are doing the thing. I said, but you know what it comes down to? Communication.
Yep. Turns out.
Like, how are you speaking to her? What are you saying to her? What's going on? And he said, well, to be honest with you, I know she has some issues younger when she was, 6 to 13. I think some inappropriate behavior went on. And I'm like, well, you're always going to have to do all the things because she's traumatized. I'm like, until she figures out and sees a therapist and she's not triggered by things, you're going to have to do all the things.
which she's going to need to do, and I hope that she does.
Right. And I'm like, so, but why aren't you having a conversation about doing the things? He goes, well, I really don't want to cheat on her. And I was like, how did we go from this to cheating?
What is wrong with y'all, dudes?
Just like, he goes,
what is wrong?
He goes, I'm 27. I have needs. I'm like, okay, well, you're with someone 30 something and she has needs. So it's mutual. And then I said to him, I said, listen, I have to say, if you're doing all the things, then she's going to have to be able to compromise with you, because communication is also about compromise, and say, hey, 9 out of 10 times, I need a little razzle dazzle before we get our thing on.
I love the old razzle dazzle. Gotta have it.
I said, but sometimes I need to just be able to come home and like have a quickie. So you just have that communication.
Correct. And we all know, unfortunately, dudes, and of course women too, have their own issues.
Mostly dudes.
Talking to you dudes, you're not great at communicating. You just assume. It's crazy. You give us shit for being like, you have to know where you've got to be a mind reader. I think that men a lot of times are 10 times worse at that. Like, you have to know what I'm thinking. I'm such a simple creature. Okay, whatever. You're not. Anyway.
Man has needs.
Yeah. Well, and stop, so do we. So there you go.
Listen, what we're saying is communication is hard, it's awkward, it's difficult, but you have to have it.
Yeah, and they're gonna. I mean, the communication, you're gonna have to throw in some conflict. Like that's the point. That's what I think people get afraid of.
Yes,
and
sometimes the communication, I think, often it's about fear, because you don't know what your partner is going to, how your partner is going to react. I should say that.
Of course.
But sometimes the fear is about you not really knowing what you want in that relationship.
Hence the communication.
How to get what you need. And maybe you don't know what you need. And
you don't sometimes.
What do we do when we don't know what we need? We don't know how to fulfill that sexual itch. What, as women, what are our choices? What do we do?
I mean, that is an interesting question with a lot of options. Yeah, I mean, I think with regard, if you're in a committed relationship or you have somebody that you're with and you hit a rut or whatever it is, life gets us all the time. Like work, stress is like an all-time high for most people. It kills your libido, and it goes both ways, So it's just, you just really have to have the conversation before shit gets weird.
It can get weird.
Either have the conversation or just do it.
Yeah. One or the other. Like,
just do it before it gets weird.
Before it gets awkward, or have the communication before it gets awkward. But ladies, if you don't know what you need to make you happy sexually, he's never going to know what you need. So whether that means like you go around the block and you have lots of friends with benefits, or you pick up a vibrator, shower head, whatever you need, masturbation is going to be your friend, because you need to know what turns you on in order to tell your man what turns you on. Otherwise, we're just filling around in the dark.
Yeah, pretty much. I just feel like a good sexual relationship, because again, like what we were talking about earlier, is just that we do tend to just forego our own needs to sacrifice the feelings, or this is how it's supposed to be, and that's not, and it's not going to be good. You can only last that, like, be that way. Yeah. So to the point where the conversation that you overheard today, I was wondering if this man was much older.
No.
Because let me tell you something, these older men and these young women, like I'm talking like 25, 30-year age difference. The reason why they pick these people, I think, is the control aspect, of course. Maybe some other issues, but I just think that they just, like everything we just said, that they just will, they're playthings at that point, I guess, and it works for some people, but
and we're not saying that like
if there's anything wrong with that,
matter all the time, but
they don't.
A lot of the time it is a specific niche.
There's a reason.
A niche.
Look at Leonardo DiCaprio. Every chick, he turns 25.
And it's like, next one.
Yeah.
next swipe. Are we swiping?
I mean, I know I've noticed a pattern.
He's a swiper swiping.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. So I guess I wanted to pull out some numbers, and everything that we talk about that has statistics, we will put on the website so you can check it out. With this last communication, or what I'm trying to express about, learning yourself, knowing yourself, women orgasm at a rate of 98% when they do it themselves. With women is a close second.
I think it was like 86% or something like that. Yeah.
So with a man, it's much different because usually they don't hit that sweet spot with just penetration. It involves some...
Right. And that's the thing that gets weird too, because women are not going to speak up because it feels that it's awkward.
Yes.
Or they're just like, whatever, and I mean, it's,
yeah.
Vaginas, vulvas, they're all finicky.
Yeah.
They
like different things.
They like different things on a different day, and that's fine. It's not always going to happen. But I think the reason there is at least an orgasm gap, right?
Yes.
We're gonna really get into some orgasm.
We're gonna get into
stuff,
like orgasm, G spots, the whole.
But that's like
thing.
a whole other thing, guys. So anyway, but there's this big gap, and a lot of it is just forego, just who cares? Like it doesn't matter. And
98% of the problem, women, is because we don't communicate. We don't think that we are important enough, valued enough, or that our opinion matters enough. So we don't speak up, we don't say what we need, and it ends up awkward, like Amanda said.
That is a shitty relationship too, if you feel that way. You should not be banging. You should not be banging that person anymore. Yes. Just throwing that out there.
I guess the other thing is, which was so funny about this conversation that we had today that left me in tears, and at least 4 other people around the machines with us. He said,
what machines? Just out of curiosity.
We were doing push-up, pull-up machine.
Uh-huh.
We were doing the Russian twist.
Uh-huh.
And Walt was doing some kind of chest press.
So it's like all the cables.
All the cables.
Okay.
So he's like,
I just set the stage in my head.
I know. He was like, Robin, and he's sitting there and he really is doing like that tricep thing. Because, we started dating. We were doing all the things. We're having sex over here and out there and over there. And then now we're in this relationship and it's like, crickets. And now he goes, I got bamboozled. And I was like,
what a great word. That is a good word.
It's like, you got bamboozled.
But that's the thing, though. Another thing about that with you're and your bamboozled is the fact that sex lives ebb and flow too.
Yeah, that's true.
And like for all the reasons. And people do get comfortable. And sometimes you just need to, like, sometimes you're like, you want to walk in and have a quickie or like bang one out. But sometimes you're just like, I'm going to put on my sweatpants. I'm going to take this bra off and slingshot it across the room. Don't touch me.
Off, it never goes back.
But it's like, I don't know, and I get that, like, him being 27 and probably has not had a ton of experience, especially being in a relationship.
Yeah.
Sorry to this person making an example out of you. That's why you don't talk shit at the gym. But
loud enough for me to hear. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And then to tell me about it. And here we go. That, like, it just ebbs and flows and it changes. And so I really hope that both of them are young.
Yeah.
Hopefully they will figure it out.
Figure it out.
I really hope they do,
before something happens.
Correct.
But that leads me to my next point that I really wanted to talk about is that what you guys feel, love, floats your boat today may not do that 6 weeks from now, 1 month from now, or 6 months from now. And that's why we keep harping on communication. Communication isn't good for a month or a year. Communication is a daily, constant thing that you have to have with your partner, because we all know that sexual health for women is directly linked to psychological wellness. Like, you need one to make the other one. Well, basically you need one so your fun life is fulfilled.
Yeah.
Whether that's with your partner, your girlfriend, or your group of friends. Like, if you're over here frustrated, that's just gonna like dwindle, overflow, and affect other areas of your life.
And that big thing, the resentment
Yes.
that builds up and like bubbles. And
You don't want it to get awkward.
Let's not get weird, people.
For example, and I asked my husband if I could talk about this. Communication, right?
I'm going to have to have a sip of booze for this.
I happen to enjoy sexual relations, Hercules, at night. Now, sometimes I'm a little buzzed, but nighttime is the right time for me. But my husband, early morning. And I'm like, I had to have a conversation. I'm like, what are we doing here? I said, I can certainly do a quickie. I said, but you want like a whole
performance.
Play. You want a first act, a second act, a third act. And I'm
he
like,
wants all the bases.
All the things.
He wants all the bases.
I gotta pee. I got go to the gym. I got work to do. But it was a communication. It was a communication issue. So now he knows when I say, oh, really? Oh, yeah. Recalls that conversation that we had, and he can't get pissed because I already told him.
And guys, don't forget that you have two hands.
Right? They work. Really, they do. If you can drive a car,
you can.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah,
they work. I think the other things that I wanted to touch on, because this podcast is about women's health, wellness, well-being. Listen, ladies. Just because you're in a situation or a situationship, or you're married or whatever it is, no means no. I need to make this perfectly clear. Sexual consent is a thing. If there's not a yes, there's no consent, no matter what. I don't care if you're starting out, you're in the middle of it, or it's afterwards. No means no. So that's one of those communication things that you need to keep in the back of your head as well. It's like, you have the right to say no, but you have to communicate that no.
Correct. And I
can't read your mind.
No,
no means no, but you actually have to say the words.
Correct. And I know, like, when we did, the sex ed stuff, like even when I was in high school, we all did it. And I don't know, like, how it is. I can't even imagine what a sex ed course is. Is either all the things or none. I don't know if there's any, like, exactly.
Got the little people marching. I know.
We need to,
cartoon things.
I need to ask about that and do some research to see if they even do it, But I know that we were often told that, like, you can say no. We talk about the consent and, like, and that also includes, like, being in a relationship, being married.
Yeah.
I think it would be incredibly messed up if I've definitely heard stories from people, and I won't go into it, that, being in a relationship and just not saying no, or feeling like you can't, or saying no, and then things proceed anyway because they feel like, well, you have to anyway.
And that's a bigger problem.
It's a huge problem. So when I was talking about stop banging the people that make you feel like shit, like, exactly. There you go. Yeah. So big time. It's super important. And especially, I also feel like the same thing, like with a lot of the stuff that's taken over the past 4 years. I think men, or young boys at least, understand, or at least have a little bit more knowledge of no.
Yeah.
And what it means.
Yeah.
And
ladies, please take the initiative to teach your young little boys no means no, and to respect everybody's boundaries.
Yeah, you tell them no when they put their hand in the cookie jar. Yeah. The same thing applies to everything else. So
there are repercussions of everything we do in life, even when you're little. So let that communication about sex and values and boundaries start early.
Absolutely. Boundaries are important. Yeah. And you can also get to, I don't even know what they qualify. You can get to, like, your, obligatory first or second base and then say no to something else. It's not just like a whole thing. So
yes.
I don't know about you if you've ever experienced something like that.
Nude on a bed, both of you, and he's like on top of you, and you can still say no. You can say no.
Yep.
In the middle of intercourse, you don't feel right. You can say no. Get off of me. No is enough. I don't care where you are in the relationship.
Agreed.
Or the situationship.
Super important. Well, we got serious there for a
we
second.
did get
Feels
serious.
weird. We're never serious.
I know.
Just kidding. No,
aren't
for real.
we?
Yeah.
Sometimes. So what do you think about, I know that, well, I hear this all the time, that young people today think about sex in a completely different way.
I hear
than
they're
we
not
did.
having it.
Well, I heard that they're not having it, or they're just like all over the place. Like,
I mean, I think
having it a lot.
It makes sense. Well, I'm so.
I don't know how they're having it, because social media is like, how do you even know how
Correct.
to communicate with anybody?
And like porn is so.
Oh yeah, available.
You could. I can't even Google something without. I'm like, why do I need this? Like,
exactly.
you know, I mean, it's just crazy. And I have my. We'll talk about like porn and how crazy it is in another because it really is nuts and scary. But like, yeah, it's either they're just not. I think the reason that they're not doing. I think there might be some evidence on this that the reason why they're not doing social media.
Yeah. Because
they don't talk to each other. Everybody's got that instant gratification. They're on Instagram, Snapchat. I'm 41, y'all. I'm probably not up to date in all the coolest apps anymore, but like all that stuff where you know what I mean, that they're not talking to each other. They're on Discord. They're playing games. Like they're just that interaction.
They don't even talk in school, do they? Are they like
that's
on
part
their
of the
phone
problem.
all
Like
the time?
I know a lot of the, well, you know, I'm not gonna. We don't need to dwell on it, but like the stipulations that happened during COVID and how it took a lot of them at these ages where they were transitional, where they learn social skills when they're in school.
Right.
They didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so there's this arrested development, I think, with some of that stuff that they don't even know how to talk to the opposite sex. They're terrified of it. Or, you know, there's a lot of, now that everybody's more open, maybe they just don't know what they're into.
Right.
They're like, I'm supposed to be into this, or I don't know if I'm into this. And it's okay to not know that, you know? Right. So
and also labeling. I don't think that.
Yeah.
I think labels are different now. Like, are you my boyfriend? Or I'm seeing multiple people. Like, but still, in these instances, you still need communication, right?
Yeah.
Sexually transmitted diseases, which we don't call it anymore. Excuse me. Sexually transmitted infections, are STIs, are still out there. Syphilis is on the rise. Chlamydia, gonorrhea.
Oh, and the uncurable kind of gonorrhea.
And herpes.
Yeah.
HIV. It's all out there. So communication when you first start dating someone, before it gets to the awkward stage, before you're about to have sex, maybe have the conversation. So do you have a history of STIs?
Or go get tested with your partner.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And you can do that at home. You can do that at home now. You can go buy a home test, and I don't know the panel.
You go to dinner.
Yeah, date night.
You come home, you have a couple of drinks, and you're like, I got my test.
Here's the strip. Let's do
it.
Wow, that's hot.
That's awkward when somebody comes out with like a double line.
I know.
What do you do?
Or however it works. I don't know. I haven't tried one, but I've seen them, and you can do that. But like if you can do that at home or buy a kit, like you don't even have to. There's so much stuff that's very accessible. And that you don't have to necessarily do like a Planned Parenthood thing, or you don't have to go to your doctor. If you want to do that at home, you can do that at home. And then you could do it together before you do it together. See what I did?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a thing, especially I think with like younger people.
Especially with younger people.
Yeah.
But I do feel like even when you get older, so I had patients, and they were my favorite ones, the teeny boppers, the high schoolers, the college kids, and they would come in and I would say, so do you have any questions about sex? And they would say, nope. And I'm like,
but they have a million.
So no questions at all. Nope. So anybody pressure you to have anal sex, like any herpes, any blah, blah, like, oh my God, Dr. Tracy, I just remembered. And it's a whole thing about a whole thing. So definitely the things are going on. But again, communication, right? Talk to your girlfriends. Go to the student center. Like, know what's going on. STIs are most for most part, besides HIV and herpes, are treatable. But some of them can leave you sterile, infertile, like the whole 9 yards. So you really need to know what you're stepping into and have these honest conversations with the people. Let me just say, if you can allow someone's, and I'm going to be perfectly blunt, if you can allow someone to have oral sex with you or put their penis inside your vagina, you can have a conversation.
And if you can't, you don't need to be doing it.
Yeah, and if you can't have that conversation about past STIs, then you need to like put the panties back on, zip up the jeans and go home, because you got to know these things.
Yep.
Because what happens to you down the line is completely different that's going to happen to him.
Yeah, I actually just think it's crazy that, I mean, I know people are going to do what they're going to do. Everybody's probably done something stupid when it comes to sex with somebody, but it is kind of crazy that we have all these things. Well, this is why education is important, and communication. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You guys noticing a theme? Communication. That there's still such a prevalence of some of these things that are on the rise. And I mean, the whole antibiotic resistance stuff, that's a whole other thing. But like the fact that some of the stuff still happens just as people are just careless, when you have, I mean, you can literally go get free birth control. Yeah. I mean, I think it's not that, I'm not really sure how I agree with it, but I think now you can get birth control over the counter, like hormonal birth control. But you can go to a place and put your hand in a giant jar full of condoms. Like there's no, I don't know.
I mean, here, healthcare professional, I would rather you go grab a condom than a birth control pill any day, because a condom will protect you from getting pregnant.
Correct.
And an STI, whereas, birth control pill is only pregnancy.
Right, which is also important, but I think people need to, I'm certain there's people out there that assume.
There's a lot of people out there that do not know the difference, and they think that they're the same, but they are not the same.
Yeah. Did you hear that? They're not the same.
They're not the same. Let me say it one more time. A condom.
For the people in the back.
A condom protects you from pregnancy 98% of the time and an STI. Birth control protects you from pregnancy, not an STI. So you can take all the birth control pills in the world and tell me that your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, they look healthy, there's nothing going on with them, but you can still get an STI.
You can, and a lot of them, depending upon what it is, you might not show symptoms, and that can go either way.
Yeah.
So
especially men.
Yeah, particularly
they tend to not show symptoms unless
those bastards.
The penis is on fire. That's the only time you'll know.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
So all in all, sex is easy if you communicate.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's, what is that saying? It's simple, but it's not easy, I guess, is a good way to put it. Because if you want to have, if you want to have like good sexual health with yourself, with your partner, whoever it is, or partner, like.
Or all of them.
All of it.
The above.
All the above, you have to have, you really do have to communicate, and you have to be aware, and your partners need to be aware of how this is going to work and how you are and where you stand, and boundaries, your physical health, your mental health, all of that. So
all of it matters. All of it matters. Like, you guys, you have a voice. There are 1,000,005 things that can happen to us as women. We don't necessarily always have the resources that we need when these things happen. So if you're in a relationship or situationship or whatever you're in, and you decide not to communicate, let's just say you decide not to communicate. So you can get pregnant, and do you know if he's going to be there? So you're a single parent. We know now, with all the crazy shit going on with men trying to be in our vaginas, abortion's not going to be an option soon, or really isn't now, unless you're in a certain state or you are on the
Or you fall into
brink
the
of death.
the categories, the rape, incest.
Yeah,
or-
like
yeah.
that's not an option. Or you get herpes, which you have to carry around literally like luggage for the rest of your life.
Ugh,
You know,
genital luggage.
right? You
No one
can't do
wants
anything
that.
about that. HIV, no, we don't hear about it that much anymore. It's still relevant. It's still out there. You have to protect yourself. As women, we have to protect ourselves. We have to have these difficult conversations because we have to be our own best advocate
Correct.
against all of these things.
Right. And that's what I was always, I work in healthcare too, and on a different side, but I always preach, I hate using that word, but I do. It's a soapbox I will not get off. You have to be your own advocate to navigate any of this. And you have to take care of yourself. And there are resources out there for anybody. You do have to kind of have an idea of where to find them, but like just talk to somebody if you're having an issue. If you can't go to your partner or choose not to, or something's going on, I just hope that everybody can find someone out there or a healthcare professional like that can
Aunts
help,
out there,
yeah,
cousins out there.
a girlfriend, somebody you can confide in, you know, that can help you. I mean, there's ways to figure this out, but you have to take care of yourself. It's one of those things, you want it done right, you're gonna have to do it yourself. Unfortunately, it kind of happens that way. So,
and that's why we're here. That's why I'm here. This is a tribe. This is a community built for women, healthcare issues, healthcare, wellness, anything surrounding that. So you can get some answers. You can certainly, write to me, email me. Like, this podcast is for us, by us, because we are an important voice. We carry the next generation forward every year. We need to be here and we need to be present and we need to enjoy our lives. Correct. Instead of stressing and not communicating. We need to start a game.
Okay.
Anytime we have a subject matter and anytime we say that subject matter, like Andy Cohen, you have a drink.
All right.
Communication.
We got cheers.
Got a drink.
Well, then we're going to have to chug this whole bottle then because we've said it 870 times.
Haven't we?
So,
Haven't we?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it helps with my whole, sexy, raspy voice.
Our sexy, raspy voices. So hot.
So anyway, back to what we were saying. What do you think if I asked you what was one of your awkward, weird sexual communications that you had to navigate as an adult? Because it's hard as an adult to talk to maybe your husband that you guys used to have the best sex ever. And then you're 35, 40, 45, and you're realizing year after year, things are getting crazy and you don't know why. Side note, different episode, perimenopause. That's your reason. And you just don't know what's going on, but you don't know how to tell him, can you please stay away from me because your penis is not doing it for me
I don't want any of that.
Keep it away from me.
Yeah, I mean, I've been married for a hot minute and
you've been married for more than a hot minute.
Yeah, exactly. We've been pretty good. I will say, weirdest thing that's come up, it was with an ex. I was a guy that I did. We had we were actually pretty good sexually. But one thing that I had a hard time with is when he moved out of state and the insecurities and just all of that stuff. And so that kind of leads into a different conversation, but a hard thing that happened is it's just hey, I'm not a complicated person. I just don't want you to put your dick in anybody else. Well, and then guess what happened?
Just snort.
Yeah, well,
that was funny.
Laugh at my pain, Tracy. No. And that's kind of what ended up happening. And so that was basically the end of it,
Well, I can see that.
Yeah, right.
You never know what's happening when you're not around.
Correct. And that's also another big thing with the communication too, is some people have their own arrangements and can do whatever just fine, and that is fine for them.
I think also, I think a lot of the non-communication that most people have is that they grew up in homes where
Oh, for
you
sure.
never talked about sex. You're like, what? How did I even get here? Like, do y'all even like kiss,
Oh.
touch, hug, whatever?
No, well, yeah. So like I definitely, my background was like when I was growing up, my mom, and I don't know if she'll ever listen to this.
She better.
She probably will. So, but I mean, she was a teenage mom.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was we will not go into that childhood stuff, but I will say this, that she terrified the shit out of me when it came to
Being a teenage mom.
yeah, like honest to God, I remember like, yeah, we were in school, we had to have the permission slip signed to do the sex ed, and you know, when you're in fifth grade or whatever, you learn about your body, and then you learn about the boys' bodies, and then they tell you like, if you don't already know this is where babies come from, you know?
And it only takes one time.
Yeah, I know. And when you're young, I mean, yeah. So, yeah, I was like out rollerblading. Yeah, that's right, bitches. I was rollerblading. And she was like sitting on the stairs, and she's like, get over here. And I'm like, okay. And literally like, she just, for some reason was like, have you started your period yet? And I'm like, no. And I was like athlete, gymnast, that's a whole other thing. I was a late bloomer with that kind of stuff too anyway. But I was like, no. She's like, you know, when you do, you can get pregnant, right? And I'm like, yeah, I took that class. And she was like, well, don't do it. And da 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 da. And it turns out like there was this neighborhood boy that, I mean, she was just being aware, but instead of, she was, but instead of coming in hot, it probably might not have been the best.
But parents used to always come. Like,
I know.
We just got to a place where you gently sit down with your child.
Right.
And negotiate.
Well, I don't think you should negotiate.
Me either.
But I mean, I think you can be more open with your kids, but also be their parent. You can't be their best fucking friend.
Yeah,
I'm so sick of that shit. Sorry, y'all, but I am. Because now look what we had.
Because we're not best friends.
No, you can be best friends with your kids 30.
Can you go to the bar with me? We're not best friends.
No, we're not. No. And even then, until I can tolerate you, like maybe when you're 30, then we can be best friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. And I understand that. But to a young kid, when you scare them like that, you know, that like boys are awful or whatever it might be. I mean, I'm a straight woman, but I could have been trying to figure that out too. Like there was just lots of issues with it.
Right.
And I think about it definitely didn't scar me, but like, it messed with me a little bit, and I was scared. Which was probably a good thing, I guess.
I think that I'm on the opposite side of that spectrum because I grew up with, listen, I'm 5'7". I'm not saying that I'm tall, but my mom, who passed away when I was 21, she was like all of maybe 5 foot even.
Yeah.
Maybe. I was trying to give her an inch, but I don't think so. She was 119, 9 months pregnant. Like she was a tiny woman, right?
Woman. Yeah.
My mother didn't have to tell me, you better not get pregnant and bring anything up in here, because she would just look at me and I'm like, so that was my chastity belt. Like, have you met my mother? Like, she'll kill you and me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like
that was
that's
my thing.
Yeah, that's kind of, you know, the fear of God to some degree.
Exactly. So then that does not like foster an environment for communication, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So you're always like fearful
the person I'm not going to is her.
Yeah.
Ever about anything.
Yeah.
Anything. Because that was not the best way to go about it.
No.
Now I'll say whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm like, hey, you want to hear something fucking crazy?
Yeah.
And it's fine, but we're friends. But it's, you know, we have a good relationship like that. But yeah, like that's, you know, and then they come to you like, why didn't you ever talk to me? And I'm like, well, I don't know if you remember on May 6th in 1994 when you know what I mean?
When you screamed at me in front of all of my friends about sex.
That was the other thing. There were people there. This was not a private conversation. I'm like, what the fuck?
Like,
This is not
what are we doing?
time.
What are we doing?
But it's almost like, well, if they didn't know, now they know.
No.
And I'm like, I guess you did a public service.
Yeah.
You can't say that stuff now. Now you'll get sued or something. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't. And so there's a fine line, people or parents out there, I think.
Very fine line.
You need to be their parent, not telling y'all how to parent. Like, please don't come at us. It's not that. But like, just keep in mind, like, there's fine line and a healthy notion of like, well, this is the consequence. People, that's everybody's problem now, is they don't understand that there's consequences to these actions. It's everybody's going to take care of.
Detached. Like, they don't see
So detached.
they don't see like your friend that you've had for like 5 years walk into class in the 9th grade with a baby bump. Right?
Yeah, I think everybody
Like,
had
what
some
is
of those.
that? And everyone's like, well, definitely don't want to be like that because everyone's talking about her, and let me like go over here after class and say what happened. Of course I know what happened, but like, girl, how did we get here?
Yeah, there were a few of those in high school for sure. And when you knew a little bit more about them, it's not surprising that that happened. You know, and as far as I know, they're all well, but that's scary.
But it's like one of those things that like still the communication stopped right then, right? So you go home, your mom's like, whatever happened to blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, she's pregnant. So you're not allowed to hang out with her anymore. Like, anything else can happen to her in the next 9 months.
Well,
like, it's all good.
yeah, I know.
Consequences.
Yeah, but that's a big consequence. Like, there are consequences to anything you do in life, especially with the sex.
Sex is a big thing.
Yeah.
Which means that communication. Drink.
Oh, yay. Cheers.
Should be equally as important. But I do feel as though parents now, I don't have children. I have a godchild. I am around kids all the time. I feel like parents walk a very thin line with not wanting to be mean to their children, or they assume that if they tell their children the truth or talk or speak about consequences, that you're mean, and then your kids are not going to like you, and then their friends can't come over, and all the things, instead of taking the time to know I brought this human being into the world and I need to explain the birds and the bees.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, there's a completely different conversation that you would have with your son versus your daughter. But I think that both parents should be speaking to their kids about sex, because you have a very different perspective. And that's whether it's like, you know, same-sex relationship or a heterosexual relationship. You bring different things to the table and you can speak to them in a different way. And then if you have an aunt or a best friend aunt or whoever that can like chime in and give their sense of what the conversation is, it goes a long way. And that way, I don't feel like a kid would think that you're ganging up on them,
right,
as much as you're trying to give them as much knowledge as
approach
possible.
And the delivery and the context are super important in any type of communication. I kind of did that on purpose, but whatever. But also with that too, I will say that I feel like, and I still feel this way, and this is just a feeling, but some of the things I have observed too, when they are talking, like when you do need to talk to both your kids or you have a son and daughter, regardless of what their orientation is, though, I do think specifically for straight men, they really need to they need to change the focus and be like, y'all need to be way more responsible than how you actually are. I do think that a lot of that stuff needs to be focused towards men, because, you know, they're like, wrap it up. Okay, well, that's important,
I
but
haven't
like,
heard that in a while.
yeah, I know, right?
But it's so true. Well, it wore a condom. Did you put it on properly? Did you have that
Yes.
communication?
Yeah, it's always, I feel like it's all burdensome on the woman, with taking the hormonal birth control. Or, like, I don't know. I just feel like that the same conversation, or this drill down that you're giving to daughters,
Definitely.
really, that kind of needs to happen a little bit more.
It needs to happen across the board.
And I still don't really even know, and not calling anybody out, but I have friends that have children. I don't have any children either. I have dogs. I'm one of those people. Yeah. So that, well, I have nieces and nephews, and sometimes some of this stuff has come up too, and they don't feel comfortable talking to their parents. Yeah. So they just don't. So I will give it to them straight in an appropriate way. But I do tell their parents, hey, they asked me this question, because I don't want to, unless it's like something like, please don't tell. And as long as no one's getting hurt,
right.
Then I don't have to disclose that.
I think that is a relationship, right?
Yeah.
That is another communication.
It is.
Ding. Why doesn't that just ding?
We'll have to add a ding.
But that's important, because the communication that you have with your best friends, your sister, your cousins, all of that is kind of intertwined into how you can communicate with the little people who are growing up to be the big people who are going to rule this world. And I remember I lived in New York for 18 years. I came home for a visit. My best friend has 3 children, 2 of them teenagers, watching TV, innocent enough, boyfriends. They're in short shorts because it's, I don't know, 2024 and summer outside. And they have boyfriends, and they're like laughing and talking. And I thought to myself, midwife, ding, 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 ding. Wait, what? What is going on? So I went over to Tiffany, my bestie, and I was like, have you talked to them about sex and like what like summer nights and short shorts and like togetherness can do? And she's like, no, I mean, they're good girls. Nothing like that would happen. Okay.
Well, if they don't know.
The next day, this is me on everybody's door. Hey, let's talk. And they're like, oh my God, Miss Tracy. No, that's not happening. Yes, I know. Okay.
Okay, well, then they do know, but you have to be sure.
And let me leave you my number, and your mom is perfectly okay with you calling me and her not knowing, but we're not having any kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't do that to her.
But I had that communication, because I'm like, I'm talking to them. Like, okay, you can think all you want.
Yeah.
But it takes 2 people to tango, and one person can talk someone else into something else because of communication.
Right. Exactly. I don't know. And I know that there's definitely an age where there's like pressure, or, like
there's always pressure.
And
so whether you think your children are good or not, that's irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
Because there's an environment around them. There are people around them. There's peer pressure. There's always been peer pressure.
I'm actually impressed that Tiffany's kids are like talking to real life people, and they're not on Instagram. I'll give them that. So that's good.
I know.
I mean,
and they were homeschooled.
I know. Wow. Mind is blown right now.
I know. Like teenagers, they got it different than we did.
Yeah, they do. And that's fine, and that's normal. I just think it's a little...
Well, I think the thing with which I didn't even know at the time, because, coming from old school, you think you're homeschooled and you don't communicate with anybody. Now you can homeschool, and then they have dances, and they have like football, and they have all these like intermingling kind of activities, which is amazing.
It's normal too.
But that would be great if it wasn't social media.
Right.
Because that's the thing that like sucks everyone's attention.
Right. Yeah.
So what are you going to do?
I know. What are you going to do?
Thank you for watching Truth and Tonic for Women. If you have any questions, leave a comment and let us know. Also, follow us on social media to interact with the community. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.